We're not merely facing an external conflict with Mexico, we're also engaged in a devastating internal war that strikes at the very core of our nation. Inflation, the direct and inevitable result of government mismanagement or sheer negligence, has spiraled out of control. This isn't just due to the current administration's reckless decision to flood the market with liquidity, but it's also a calculated consequence of accommodating an overwhelming influx of illegal migrants, whether intentional or not. This policy has not only hidden the true reality of their policies, but has placed an unmanageable demand on our production abilities that we cannot assimilate or match. State and local governments, buckling under this pressure, have turned to the federal government for aid, which has responded by printing more money. This approach, essentially funding the caravan of invaders, has directly devalued the purchasing power and savings of every American citizen. Scarcity has now been brought to the shores of the United States. Remember, an economy based on fiat currency can maintain its value only when there is a balanced equilibrium between money supply and the production of goods and services, a balance utterly shattered by these misguided policies. Leveraging illegal migrants to artificially inflate demand while simultaneously stifling production through overregulation is nothing short of self-sabotage within our borders, a betrayal by those sworn to safeguard the interests of United States citizens.
Now, one day, on day one, I'm going to send a legislative immigration reform bill to Congress to provide a roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants.
In Fairfax County, where I reside, our educational system is collapsing under the burden of an influx of children from illegal immigrants.
New policy aimed at making immigrant families feel safer. Board members call it a trust policy. The school system will not voluntarily share information about the status of students or their families to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Board members say this is part of a commitment to providing a safe and welcoming space for all students and their families. The county government has already adopted a similar policy.
The assertion that educating each child of illegal immigrants adds only $2,000 to the cost per U.S. citizen child is not merely an underestimation, it's a gross misrepresentation. The truth is far more alarming. Our public schools have essentially morphed into makeshift daycare centers for these children, at an exorbitant cost of $18,772 per student. This isn't an investment in education, but an expenditure to manage a burgeoning crisis. As property taxes in Fairfax County skyrocket, residential homes have been transformed into makeshift hotels, emblematic of a broader decline in our once celebrated quality of life, now marred by bureaucratic overreach and mismanagement. It's clear that these funds are not improving our services, but are instead being funneled to address the needs of undocumented immigrants directly at the cost of American citizens.
The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors voted to help undocumented and illegal immigrants fight deportation. In its $4.4 billion budget voted on Tuesday, the board set aside $200,000 for a legal aid pilot program to help immigrants facing deportation proceedings.
Here, the superintendent of schools commands a salary of over $424,000 annually, while principals earn approximately $190,000 plus. Amidst this, parents are clashing with school board members in desperate attempts to safeguard their children from policies like allowing biological boys in girls' bathrooms under the guise of gender identity. This situation begs a critical question. Who exactly are our county government employees serving? As the Biden administration and its allies approach the end of their term, they're making concerted efforts to lock in policies that perpetuate a new norm of bureaucratic irresponsibility, enabling officials to work remotely, often in casual or neglectful settings, seemingly disconnected from the real-world impacts of their decisions. This shift has affected housing, education, and healthcare, all of which are visibly deteriorating as the influx of illegal immigrants competes for the same dwindling resources, further diminishing the purchasing power of American citizens.
Since August of 2022, the City of Chicago has spent more than $400 million, according to the city's spending website. Nearly $253 million went to one private company, Kansas-based Favorite Healthcare Staffing, which staffs the shelters. Another $76 million went to Equitable Social Solutions. That company partnered with another called ReloShare, which helped identify and sign lease agreements with property owners of the buildings that eventually became the migrant shelters.
That's where a number of those leases are.
But when we asked the city months ago for copies of these lease agreements, we were given just 9 out of 27. The use of these private companies has helped mask from public view where the public dollars have flowed. What we didn't know until now is how much the property owners of the migrant shelters were earning.
Reversing this downward spiral is not merely challenging, it represents a Herculean task that requires a unified, resolute public effort to wrest control back from a bureaucracy that seems to thrive on the degradation of U.S. citizenship and national integrity. The illusion that public services can be expanded without cost to citizens must be shattered. Such expansions, when funded by unsustainable fiscal policies, inevitably harm the public by eroding economic stability and public trust. To counteract these challenges, we must advocate for policies that preserve the value of our currency, safeguard the integrity of our public institutions, and protect our national sovereignty. Achieving these objectives requires a unified commitment to reinstating effective governance, ensuring that government actions genuinely serve the interests of the American people, not just the agenda of a detached bureaucracy.